within the whispering, mist-laden valley of Oakhaven, where the ancient oak trees stood like silent sentinels and the winter winds carried the scent of pine and old memories, lived a young weaver named Jeremy. He spent his long, quiet days in a small, weathered cottage at the edge of the village, surrounded by bundles of wool, spools of dyed thread, and the gentle, rhythmic clatter of his heavy wooden loom. Jeremy was a young anthropomorphic red panda with soft rust-colored fur, cream markings around his eyes, and a bushy striped tail. He had recently inherited the workshop from his late grandfather, a weaver known for fabrics that seemed to shimmer with life. Despite his dedication and skill, times were hard for Jeremy in Oakhaven. The village was struggling under a long, bitter winter that refused to yield to the spring, keeping potential customers huddled by their fires and away from his shop. His cupboards grew barer by the week, and the chill crept through the gaps in his wooden walls, making his paws stiff as he tried to weave. One evening, as the shadows lengthened and his candle burned low, Jeremy searched the attic for extra firewood or old blankets. While moving a pile of old rugs, his foot caught on a loose floorboard near the brick chimney. Prying the floorboard loose with a rusted iron tool, Jeremy discovered a hidden compartment in the dust. Inside, nestled in a small, iron-bound chest covered in decades of gray cobwebs, lay a mysterious bundle wrapped in faded indigo silk. The fabric smelled faintly of dried lavender and stardust, a scent that immediately filled the chilly attic with warmth. Unwrapping the silk, Jeremy found a plump pillow embroidered with intricate silver threads that depicted constellations, crescent moons, and swirling clouds. The silver threads seemed to glow with a soft, pulsing light, casting gentle reflections on his rust-colored fur and cream-colored face. Intrigued by the strange item, Jeremy carried the pillow downstairs to his drafty bedroom. Exhausted from a day of fruitless work, he laid his head upon the silver-threaded stars and closed his eyes. The moment his cheek touched the velvet, a deep, soothing warmth flowed through his body, washing away the ache in his muscles and the worry in his mind. He fell into a slumber deeper and more peaceful than any he had ever known. When he opened his eyes, he was no longer in his dark room, but standing in a vast, luminescent garden beneath a sky filled with two glowing moons. The grass beneath Jeremy's bare paws felt like spun emerald glass, cool and soft, glowing with its own inner light. Flowers shaped like delicate crystal bells swayed in a gentle breeze, making a soft, melodic chiming sound that echoed through the garden. Jeremy looked down at his reflection in a pool of liquid silver, marveling at the vibrant colors of his dream self. As he turned, a small, elegant sprite stepped out from a grove of weeping willow trees. The sprite had soft fur the color of twilight, eyes like brilliant stars, and 4 transparent wings that left trails of glitter as they fluttered. "Welcome to the Dreamlands," the sprite said, its voice sounding like the rustle of autumn leaves. "I am the weaver of dreams, and you have slept upon the pillow of whispers, a tool crafted by your ancestors to bridge the waking world and the realm of patterns." Jeremy felt no fear, only a deep sense of wonder. "Why am I here?" he asked, touching a crystal flower. The sprite smiled gently. "Your village is cold, and the land is weary," the sprite replied. "But the dream realm holds the blueprint of renewal. Take this silver seed, plant it in the waking world, and watch the soil remember spring." The sprite placed a warm, glowing silver seed in Jeremy's palm, its light reflecting in his dark eyes. When Jeremy awoke, the bright morning sun was filtering through his frosted window, and the dream felt like a beautiful, fleeting illusion. But as he sat up, he felt a solid weight in his closed paw. Opening his fingers, he gasped to find the very same silver seed, pulsing with a gentle warmth. He dressed quickly, ran out into the snow-covered garden behind his cottage, and pushed the seed into the frozen ground, hoping against hope that the magic was real. To his astonishment, the snow around the planting spot immediately melted, revealing rich, dark soil. By noon, a thick, vibrant green vine had sprouted from the ground, climbing up the stone wall of his cottage. It bore clusters of glowing, sapphire-colored berries that smelled of summer rain and sweet honey. Remembering his neighbor, an elderly rabbit named Mrs. Gable who had been bedridden with a severe winter fever, Jeremy picked a handful of the berries and brought them to her. Within moments of eating the sweet fruit, the color returned to her face, her fever broke, and she stood up, laughing. Word of the miraculous vine spread quickly through Oak Haven, bringing hope to the shivering villagers. The next night, Jeremy laid his head back on the magic pillow, determined to find a way to help the village with its water shortage, as the main stream had frozen solid to its rocky bed. He fell into a deep sleep and opened his eyes in a vast, arid desert under a blazing purple sun. The air was dry and hot, quite unlike the cool garden of his first dream. Before him stood a giant golem made of moss-covered river stones, weeping tears of sand. The stone golem's voice rumbled like thunder as it explained its sorrow to the young red panda. Its child, a tiny pebble spirit, had been lost in a sudden dust storm and was buried somewhere in the shifting dunes. Feeling deep empathy, Jeremy began to search the hot sands. He climbed mounds of dust, filtering the grains through his paws until he spotted a tiny, polished river stone shivering under a thorny cactus. Jeremy gently scooped up the pebble spirit and returned it to the giant golem, who rumbled with joy and placed the pebble on its broad, mossy shoulder. In gratitude for saving its child, the giant stone golem handed Jeremy a small, crystal canteen. "This canteen holds the tears of the earth," the golem rumbled. "Pour it where you need life, and it will never run dry." When Jeremy woke up, the cold crystal canteen was resting beside his pillow. He hurried to the center of the village, where the communal stone well had been dry and filled with ice. Standing over the dark well, Jeremy tilted the canteen and poured a stream of clear, glowing water into the depths, hoping to break the icy grip. A deep, roaring sound rose from the earth as the well filled to the brim with warm, fresh water. A clean, steaming spring began to flow through the village channels, melting the ice and bringing fresh, sweet water to every home. The villagers cheered, gathering around the well with wooden buckets. As Oak Haven began to prosper, the news of these miracles reached the ears of Baron Vane, a greedy and cold-hearted badger lord who ruled from a dark stone castle on the craggy cliffs above the valley, looking down on the people with disdain. Baron Vane was a tall, imposing badger with silver-streaked black fur, dressed in rich velvet robes with gold embroidery that glinted in the torchlight of his throne room. He was suspicious of Jeremy's sudden influence and wanted the magic for himself, believing it could lead him to mountains of gold and endless power. The Badger Lord called his captain of the guard, ordering him to watch the young red panda weaver closely and find the source of his power. Jeremy, unaware of the threat, continued to work in his shop, planning his next journey into the dream world. The next night, Jeremy slept on the pillow once more, seeking a way to protect the village's crops from the winter frost. He dreamed of a magnificent library floating in the clouds, where books with gilded wings flew from shelf to shelf like birds. A wise barn owl wearing gold-rimmed spectacles and a tweed waistcoat greeted him, explaining that the pillow was a key to the collective wisdom of the world. The owl warned Jeremy that the magic was bound by intent, and if used for greed, it would turn into a terrifying nightmare. The owl librarian guided Jeremy to a large, ancient tome that contained the secrets of thermal masonry, showing him how to build brick furnaces that could keep greenhouses warm. When Jeremy woke, he found a detailed blueprint rolled up under his arm. He spent the next 3 days working with the villagers, building the warm brick structures so they could grow vegetables despite the freezing weather. The villagers worked together, their laughter echoing through the valley, and for the first time in years, the shadow of winter began to fade from their hearts. But the Baron's guards had been watching, and they reported Jeremy's movements and the strange blueprints to their master. Baron Vane, convinced that Jeremy possessed an artifact of immense power, waited for an opportunity to strike. One afternoon, while Jeremy was in the forest gathering pine cones and firewood, the Baron's guards broke into the cottage. They ransacked the shelves, throwing wool and threads onto the floor. They searched the bed, found the embroidered silver-threaded pillow, and carried it away to the dark castle on the cliff, leaving the workshop in ruins. When Jeremy returned and saw the devastation, his heart sank, but he was filled with dread when he realized the pillow was gone. He knew that the Badger Lord would try to use it, and he remembered the wise owl's warning about the danger of greedy intent. That night, Baron Vane sat in his cold, stone bedchamber, holding the pillow in his claws. He laughed as he laid his head upon the silver constellations, dreaming of mountains of gold, chests of jewels, and endless power over the valley below. Instead of a beautiful dream, the Baron's greed twisted the magic, pulling him into a dark, suffocating nightmare. He woke up in a world of shadow and ash, where the sky was a bruised purple and the ground was made of jagged, black glass. The wind howled with the sound of weeping, and before him stood a towering beast made of molten gold and jagged iron, representing his own avarice. The beast roared, its eyes burning with red flames, and began to chase the terrified Baron across the crumbling wasteland. In the waking world, Jeremy knew he had to act before the Baron's mind was consumed by the nightmare. He lay down on the hard, cold floor of his ruined cottage, closed his eyes, and focused all his thoughts on the Baron. Through sheer willpower and his connection to the pillow's magic, Jeremy managed to slip into the dream realm, finding himself in the dark wasteland. He heard the Baron's distant, terrified cries and ran toward them, dodging falling rocks of ash and streams of molten metal. Jeremy found the Baron cornered against a cliff of black glass, the golden beast towering over him and raising a heavy claw to strike. Jeremy did not hesitate, he ran forward and stood between the badger and the monster, spreading his arms. Instead of fighting, Jeremy took off his own warm, hand-woven wool coat and held it out to the beast, offering a gesture of comfort and warmth. The beast paused, its fiery eyes blinking in confusion as it stared at the simple, kind offering. Slowly, the golden beast's flames began to dim, and the jagged iron on its back softened. It reached out a massive, glowing claw, touched the wool coat, and then dissolved into a cloud of glowing yellow butterflies that fluttered away into the sky. The dark, jagged wasteland began to crack and shatter, revealing the luminescent grass of the dreamlands beneath. Baron Vane sat on the ground, trembling and staring at Jeremy in absolute disbelief, his velvet robes covered in dream ash. The Weaver of Dreams appeared from the willow grove, looking down at the two of them with warm, starlight eyes. "You have saved him, Jeremy," the creature said, "and you, Vane, have seen the end of the path you walked." The Baron looked at his hands, then at Jeremy, tears of regret forming in his eyes. "I was so blind," the Baron whispered, realizing that true wealth was the warmth and community he had tried to destroy. The creature handed them a single golden leaf. Jeremy and the Baron woke up at the same moment, the sun rising over the valley. The Baron, true to his word, returned the pillow to Jeremy with his own hands, apologizing to the weaver and the villagers. He dismantled the dark fortress walls, using the stone to build schools and hospitals for the people. Jeremy continued to use the pillow to help the valley, but now he had a powerful friend in the Baron, who worked to ensure that everyone in Oakhaven was fed, warm, and happy. In the weeks that followed, Oakhaven transformed from a frozen, isolated village into a bustling hub of warmth and activity. The Baron's wealth, once locked away in dark vaults, was now spent on heavy wagons of supplies, high-quality timber for repairs, and warm wool for Jeremy's loom. Jeremy worked alongside the villagers, his heart light as he watched the children playing in the sun-dappled streets. The Red Panda's workshop was filled with the hum of activity once more, and he was no longer lonely. The magic pillow remained on Jeremy's bed, but he used it with a new sense of responsibility, understanding that its power was a gift to be shared, not a secret to be hoarded. He slept on the silver constellations only when the village faced a problem they could not solve on their own. One night, as he dreamed of a starry sky, he met the Weaver of Dreams again. The sprite congratulated him on his wisdom and reminded him that the bridge between worlds was always open to a pure heart. With the Baron's help, Jeremy established a guild of weavers in Oakhaven, teaching young apprentices the art of the loom and the importance of craft. The valley became famous for its beautiful, glowing fabrics, which were said to bring good dreams to anyone who slept near them. Visitors came from far and wide to purchase the textiles, and the village grew prosperous and peaceful. Jeremy often sat on his porch in the evenings, watching the sun set behind the mountains, grateful for the dusty chest in the attic. Baron Vane became a regular visitor to the workshop, his sharp badger face now softening with a smile as he watched Jeremy work. The two of them would sit by the hearth, sipping warm tea and discussing plans for the village's future. The Baron had traded his heavy velvet robes for simpler, practical clothes, and the villagers no longer feared him. Instead, they welcomed him into their homes, sharing stories and laughter over hot meals, realizing that a changed heart was the greatest miracle of all. As spring finally arrived, the valley of Oakhaven bloomed with vibrant wildflowers, their colors matching the threads on Jeremy's loom. The streams ran clear and fast, the fields were rich with green shoots, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blossoms. Jeremy looked at his grandfather's old workshop, now clean and filled with light, and felt a deep connection to the past. He knew his grandfather would be proud of what the village had become, and he smiled as he touched the silver threads of the magic pillow. One day, a young girl from the village came to the shop, holding a small, torn blanket. She asked Jeremy if he could repair it, as it was a gift from her late grandmother. Jeremy smiled, his dark eyes warm, and agreed to help. He spent the afternoon carefully weaving new threads into the blanket, using the skills his grandfather had taught him. As he worked, he realized that every thread was a connection, a way to bind people together across time and space, just like the pillow bound the dream world to the waking one. The repaired blanket shimmered with a soft, comforting light, and the young girl hugged Jeremy in gratitude. That night, as Jeremy slept on the magic pillow, he dreamed of a great loom that spanned the sky, its threads made of stardust and light. The Weaver of Dreams stood beside him, watching the cosmic loom spin. "You see, Jeremy," the sprite whispered, "every act of kindness is a thread in the great tapestry of the universe. You have woven a beautiful pattern in Oakhaven, and it will endure for generations." Jeremy woke with a peaceful heart, the sunrise casting golden light across his room. He looked out the window at the peaceful valley, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for his life and the journey he had taken. He knew there would be challenges in the future, but he also knew that the villagers of Oak Haven would face them together, bound by the threads of community and kindness. He walked to his loom, picked up a shuttle filled with bright gold thread, and began to weave a new story. As the months turned into years, Oak Haven became a legend, a place of peace and beauty that travelers spoke of with wonder. The magic pillow remained safe in Jeremy's cottage, a quiet reminder of the power of dreams and the importance of a kind heart. Jeremy grew older, his rust-colored fur silvering around his muzzle, but his eyes remained bright and warm. He continued to weave, his fabrics sought after by kings and commoners alike, but his greatest joy was still helping the people of his valley. Baron Vane, too, grew old, his badger stripes turning completely white, but his legacy as a kind and generous ruler was secured. The castle on the cliff, once a symbol of fear and oppression, was now a public library and school, filled with the sounds of learning and laughter. The Baron and Jeremy would often walk through the valley together, watching the crops grow and the children play. They knew that the magic pillow had changed their lives, but it was their choices that had changed Oak Haven. One evening, Jeremy sat in his workshop, looking at the silver-threaded pillow resting on his bed. He thought of his grandfather, who had hidden the pillow in the attic, hoping that one day someone with a pure heart would find it. He felt a deep sense of completion, knowing that he had fulfilled his grandfather's hopes and honored his legacy. He placed the pillow back in its indigo silk wrapping, knowing that its work in Oak Haven was done, but its magic would always remain. He decided to hide the chest once more, not to hoard the magic, but to keep it safe for a future generation that might need its help. He placed the iron-bound chest back in the hidden compartment near the chimney, covering it with the loose floorboard. He knew that when the time was right, the pillow would be found again, and a new story would begin. For now, the Valley of Oak Haven was safe and happy, and that was all that mattered to the old weaver. Jeremy walked out onto his porch, breathing in the cool night air. The stars were bright and clear, matching the constellations embroidered on the pillow. He sat in his rocking chair, his bushy tail curled around his paws, and closed his eyes. He did not need the magic pillow to dream now, his waking life was more beautiful than any dream he could have imagined. He listened to the gentle rustle of the wind in the oaks, falling into a peaceful, natural sleep, content with the world he had helped to weave. The years rolled by like a gentle river, and the memory of the magic pillow became a beloved tale told by the hearts of Oak Haven. Children would gather around to hear about the young red panda weaver and the badger lord who learned the true meaning of wealth. They would look up at the castle on the cliff, now glowing with warm lights, and feel safe, knowing that the spirit of kindness was woven into the very fabric of their home. The story of Jeremy and the pillow became a guiding light for the valley. And so, Oak Haven remained a sanctuary of peace, a testament to the power of a single kind act that melted the ice of greed and let the spring bloom. The looms of the village continued to clatter, spinning fabrics of beauty and warmth, and the well in the center of the square never ran dry. The people remembered the lessons of the past, teaching their children that the greatest magic of all was not found in silver threads or crystal canteens, but in the love they shared with one another. Even when the seasons changed and new challenges arose, the strength of the community never wavered. They faced storms and droughts with the same shared courage, always finding a way to support those in need. The brick greenhouses continued to produce fresh vegetables, and the schools built from the castle stones educated generations of thinkers, makers, and dreamers. The legacy of the Red Panda weaver lived on, not just in the fabrics he created, but in the hearts of the people he touched. Deep in the attic of the old cottage, the iron-bound chest lay undisturbed, the silver threads on the indigo pillow shimmering softly in the darkness. The lavender scent remained fresh, waiting for the day when the valley might need its magic once more. But for now, the waking world was bright, and the dreams of Oak Haven were sweet and peaceful. The pillow slept, its purpose fulfilled, a silent guardian of the valley's hope, waiting for the next weaver to pry the floorboard loose. The morning light would always rise over the mountains, casting golden rays across the valley and warming the red-tiled roofs of Oak Haven. The river would continue to sing its ancient song, carrying the pure waters of the mountains down to the plains. The people would wake up to their daily chores with a smile, grateful for the peace they enjoyed. And somewhere, in the great tapestry of the universe, a beautiful pattern would continue to unfold, woven from the threads of love, kindness, and dreams. On a warm summer afternoon, a young weaver, a descendant of Jeremy, sat at the same wooden loom in the old workshop. Her rust-colored fur was soft and bright, and her eyes were filled with the same curiosity and warmth that had guided her ancestor. She ran her paws over the smooth wood, feeling the history in the workshop, and began to thread her shuttle with deep blue and silver yarn. She did not know about the chest beneath the floorboards, but she felt a strange, comforting presence in the room. As she began to weave, the wooden loom clattered with a familiar, rhythmic song, a song that had echoed in the cottage for generations. She closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in the scent of lavender that seemed to linger in the air. She smiled, feeling a sudden surge of inspiration, and began to weave a pattern of stars and moons into the blue fabric. She did not know why she chose those shapes, but they felt right, as if they were a memory she had forgotten. The fabric she created was beautiful, its silver threads shimmering in the afternoon sun, catching the light like stardust. When she finished, she held it up, marveling at its beauty, and felt a deep sense of connection to the past. She knew that she was part of something larger, a chain of makers and dreamers who had shaped the valley. She placed the fabric on the bed, looking at it with pride, and felt ready to face whatever the future might bring. The sunset that evening was spectacular, painting the sky in shades of gold, purple, and rose, matching the colors of the valley below. The young weaver stood on the porch, looking out at the peaceful village of Oak Haven, feeling the same gratitude that Jeremy had felt so many years ago. She listened to the distant sound of laughter from the square and the gentle rustle of the oak leaves in the breeze. The world was quiet and safe, and she was happy to be a part of it. That night, as she lay down to sleep, she placed her head on the new fabric she had woven, feeling its soft texture and warm embrace. She fell into a deep, natural sleep, dreaming of a beautiful garden under a double moon, where a small sprite with gossamer wings smiled at her from a grove of weeping willows. The dream was peaceful and familiar, a gentle greeting from the past, reminding her that the magic was never truly lost, but always waiting in the creative heart. She woke the next morning with a smile, the dream still fresh in her mind, and felt a new energy in her work. She walked to the loom, eager to begin her day, knowing that every thread she wove was a step forward, a way to create beauty and warmth in the world. She worked with passion and joy, her hands moving quickly and surely, carrying on the legacy of the Red Panda weaver who had changed the valley with a pillow and a kind heart. And so, the tapestry of Oak Haven continued to grow, its pattern richer and more beautiful with each passing year. The story of the magic pillow was told and retold, a reminder that the greatest magic is the kindness we weave into our daily lives, binding us together in a pattern of peace and love. The valley bloomed, the looms clattered, and the dreams of Oakhaven remained sweet, secure in the knowledge that as long as there were makers and dreamers, the magic would endure.